All right. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the City Bothell Council meeting for June 16th, 2020. I'll call the meeting to order. So before we move on to the agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge our remote meeting format. Due to Proclamation 20-28 regarding open public meetings. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the City Bothell Council meeting for June 16th. If everyone can mute their microphones. The proclamation was again extended until June 17th. Therefore, this meeting will be held entirely remotely. Public comment will be allowed, both in writing or verbally. Sign-up sheets were provided by the city clerk's office via link from the agenda. The video of this meeting will be streamed live, as well as recorded and available for later viewing on the city's YouTube channel. A call-in number was provided on the meeting agenda for members of the public who wish to call in by phone to listen live to this meeting. If you have called in, we ask that you mute your device so as not to interfere with the meeting. If a participant fails to mute their connection and causes a disruption to the meeting, the connection will be terminated. For our phone-in callers, during staff presentations, staff will make every effort to specify which materials they are referencing so everyone can follow along. Those who provided advance notice are able to make comments under the visitor comment portion of this meeting. All right, at this moment, we'll take a moment to take roll call of the council members by your position. Please say here when the city clerk calls your name.
When I call your name, please unmute your mic and state here. Deputy Mayor Zorns. Here. Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
She is having technical difficulties and will attempt to join us as soon as possible.
Councilmember McNeil.
Here.
Mayor Olson.
Here.
Councilmember Dewar.
She's absent and excused today.
And Councilmember Agnew.
Here.
All right, in addition, the following city staff are in attendance. City Manager Jennifer Phillips, Deputy City Clerk Robin Schaefer, City Attorney Paul Byrne, Public Works Director Aaron Leonhardt, Transportation Planner Sherman Gong, Utility and Development Services Manager Boyd Benson, Finance Director Chris Bothell, Fire Chief Bruce Crone, Fire Marshal Butch Noble, Police Chief Ken Seuberlich. All right, so lastly, before we begin, I'd like to reiterate some of the meeting guidelines. Speak clearly and pause frequently. State your name each time before speaking. Mute your microphone when not speaking. If you are also streaming a live video, please turn the sound off as there is a delay. Council members, if you want to speak, please indicate this by holding up your yellow speaker cards in the lower portion of your screen. I'll call you as I see them. And so, lastly, please remember to mute your microphone when not speaking. So the first item on the agenda tonight is meeting agenda approval. Please note the police chief's report on social demands was inadvertently left off the agenda and was corrected earlier today. Are there any other changes to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none. So we're moving on to presentations and reports. So our first is proclamations. We have Pride Month. So whereas LGBTQIA people are our family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers, and provide meaningful contributions to our community each and every day. And whereas Pride events are held in June to commemorate the June 28, 1969 Stonewall riots that were sparked in response to ongoing harassment of New York's trans community and resulted in the establishment of safe places to express sexual orientation and gender identity without fear. And whereas equal protection of all people continues to be debated and discussed in legislative bodies and courts at the state and national level, and progress continues to be made toward protecting the rights of all people regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And whereas the Bothell City Council celebrates the LGBTQIA community and affirms the city's commitment to protect and serve everyone who resides in, works in, or visits Bothell without discrimination. Now, therefore, I, Liam Olson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim June 2020 as Pride Month in the City of Bothell. And we have another proclamation tonight for Juneteenth. Tonight, Councilmember James McNeil will be receiving this and will speak to it afterwards. So whereas we acknowledge on June 19th, 1865, the last group of enslaved African Americans were informed of their liberation in Texas 2.5 years after the implementation of the Emancipation Proclamation. And whereas, in order that we may never forget the evils of slavery and its aftermath, we acknowledge the injustices and suffering blacks experienced under slavery. And whereas Juneteenth celebrates the freedom, achievement, and contribution of Black Americans, past, present, and future. And whereas, to promote racial healing, reconciliation, and justice, it is important to recognize the significance of Juneteenth and continue engaging in dialogue on race relations. And whereas, during this Juneteenth event, we appreciate the African American experience and celebrate the inclusion of all races, ethnicities, and nationalities as we commit to working together toward equitable experiences and opportunities for all those in our community. Now, therefore, I, Liam Olson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2020 to be Juneteenth 2020 in the City of Bothell. And I encourage all to join me in this celebration. Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak to this proclamation. I wanted to speak to you as a member of the community, as a African-American man who's lived in this area his entire life. And this celebration of Juneteenth, to me, as not only a community member but a council member, means a lot because it shows how far we have come since the existence of Bothell and our country. I'm proud to call Bothell my home. I'm proud to raise my family here, and I'm proud because of the things that we do here locally with these proclamations and more. With all of the turmoil that's going on across our nation right now, it is amazing to see the way that our community, Bothell, is turning out for equity and justice, not only for Black families, but for all families across the city of Bothell, and throughout our region for that matter. So I wanted to just thank the city of Bothell for not just saying words, but actually putting words into action and making people of color feel welcome within the community of Bothell and beyond. It's not to say we don't have more work to do, because we do, but it's one first step to listen to each other and to continue the conversation. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of me as a community member, and it is an honor to be the first African-American council member in the city of Bothell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words, James. All right, on to our staff briefings. We have Police Chief Ken Seuberlich on the social demands of police reform.
Mayor, I cannot hear you.
Could you hear me or not? Oh. All right, so our next staff briefing, we have a staff briefing with Police Chief Ken Seuberlich on social demands for police reform. Yeah, please do.
Are you able to hear me, Council? So for some reason, we're not able to hear the mayor at this time. We're not sure why. So we're going to move on to Chief Seuberlich, and he's going to make a staff briefing. So Chief, if you'd like to go from here.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. Let's see if I can get my presentation loaded up here. Is the volume good? Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. Tonight, I would like to open a dialogue to discuss our policies, procedures, and practices as related to social demands for police reform. Over the course of the past 3 weeks, I have received a number of emails from individuals from around the world asking about our policies, procedures, and practices. Most of these people making inquiries had the following demands for police reform. Excuse me. Suffering technical difficulties here. Apparently the presentation is not loading correctly. Can you give me just a second here?
Take your time, Chief. There's gremlins in the system tonight.
Okay, there we go. So many of the people making the inquiries had the following demands for police reform. On this page, pretty much encompasses the 2 types of emails that I've received over the course of the past 3 weeks. On the left side of the screen is kind of a form letter that a number of people have sent to us. And I'll go through here and read these aloud so the audience can hear this. The demands were for a use of force continuum that details what weapons and force are acceptable in a wide variety of civilian and police interactions, that officers be required to exhaust every other possible option before using excessive force, that officers must be required to give a verbal warning to civilians before drawing their weapon and using excessive force, that officers must be required to report each time they threaten to or use force on a civilian, that officers be thoroughly vetted to ensure that they do not have a history of abuse, racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, or discrimination, that officers are trained to perform and seek necessary medical action after using excessive force, and that there must be an early intervention system enforced to correct officers who use excessive force. Additionally, an officer receiving more than 3 complaints must be terminated. Keeping an officer with more than 3 complaints against them is unacceptable. The other half of the interactions that I had pretty much focus on the 8 can't wait. I'm assuming that many of you are familiar with that, but I'll read those aloud as well. It focuses on decreasing police violence through the incorporation of the following policies. That would include a ban on chokeholds and strangleholds, a required de-escalation, required warning before shooting, exhaust all other means before an officer shoots, an officer duty to intervene, a ban on shooting at moving vehicles, and a requirement to follow a use of force continuum, and lastly, require comprehensive reporting. During the course of this presentation, I will try to cover these as best I can and outline our current policies that we have in place. This information on the right, the 8 can't wait, has also been uploaded to our webpage for the community to access as well. The first policy that I'd like to go over tonight, or I guess the question, the ban on chokeholds and strangleholds. This is a new policy for us. I updated this yesterday, and effective yesterday and rolling out a policy today, we have banned the use of any neck restraint or lateral vascular restraint on any individual. If it is used, it has to be used in a deadly force authorized incident only. That is a new policy, and I think it is in line with what our community is asking. The second question or point is requiring de-escalation. From 8 Can't Wait, does your use of force policy require de-escalation? For us, it does. Our policy provides clear guidance to our officers to utilize de-escalation tactics when circumstances permit and when feasible to reduce or eliminate the necessity to use physical force. Any use of force is reviewed and evaluated to determine what de-escalation techniques were used. De-escalation is always part of our training and policy discussion during our annual use of force training. It is also a mandatory requirement to cover de-escalation in regards to Washington Administrative Code 13911-020 as part of Initiative I-940, which was implemented on December 7th, 2019. We also participate in the Response Awareness, De-escalation, and Referral Program, which addresses the rights and needs of individuals with behavioral health issues and/or developmental disabilities. Having the expert help and assistance of these mental health professionals is very valuable to our officers and ultimately may help reduce our use of force incidents. I'd like to discuss this in a little bit more detail. It's a program that I am really proud of. We are one of the founding cities in this program. This Response Awareness De-escalation Referral Program is a collaboration between the city of Shoreline, Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, Kirkland, and Bothell. And as stated earlier, the goal is to help those that are in crisis and to reduce the chance of injury by officers or officers by those that are suffering from crisis. We have found that utilizing this program has reduced our repeat calls for service and has helped those in need tremendously. You'll notice on this 2019 report, we've had roughly 446, I think it is actually 446 individuals that have been contacted since we developed this program. Those are people that in the past would have just fallen between the cracks. And this is actually one of those programs that makes a huge difference in our community.
Chief, if you could move your slide so we can see that slide.
Another one of the questions are from 8 Can't Wait is the require a warning before shooting. Does your use of force policy require a warning before shooting? Our policy 200.10 states a verbal warning should precede the use of deadly force when feasible. Policy 200 addresses verbal warnings with respect to all deadly force encounters, not just shootings. Another one of the 8, does your use of force policy require officers to exhaust all alternatives before shooting? Our use of force policy is based on the concept that officers shall use only the amount of force that is reasonable or reasonably appears necessary, given the facts and circumstances at the time the use of force is used. Policy 200.8 lists several factors to consider when determining if force is necessary and reasonable. For example, the subject's mental state or capacity, the availability of other options, and their possible effectiveness, such as less lethal munitions or potentially using somebody from the radar program. And whether the conduct of the individual being confronted no longer reasonably appears to pose an imminent threat to the officer or others. Another one of the questions, does your use of force policy ban officers shooting at moving vehicles? Policy 200.11 states, shots fired at from a moving vehicle are rarely effective and are generally discouraged. Unless it reasonably appears that it will endanger officers or the public, officers are expected to move out of the path of any approaching vehicle. This is not intended to restrict an officer's right to use deadly force directed at the operator of the vehicle when it is reasonably perceived that the vehicle is being used as a weapon against the officer or others.
Chief Seuberlich?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. From my screen, I don't see that the slides are advancing.
Okay.
So I still see the words letter writing campaign as the title for the second slide. Have you advanced past that?
Yeah. Does it change here then?
Yeah, now we're seeing banned chokeholds and strangleholds.
Okay. Sorry. I've got it on two screens here. It seems to be forwarding correctly on my screen.
So if you go up to slideshow on the one that you just changed the slides on the top bar,
Okay.
then it should activate it. And I think if you hit return or enter on your computer as you go through the slides, it should advance. And if not, I'll just jump in again. Sorry for the interruption.
No. I will try to move this along here. Okay, I think we're caught up here. So I'll use this screen. Apparently, I don't understand why it's not forwarding. So I'll go from here. So banning shooting at moving vehicles. Does your use of force policy ban officers from shooting at moving vehicles? Policy 200.11 states shots fired or from moving vehicles are rarely effective and generally discouraged, unless it reasonably appears that it would endanger officers or the public. The important part of this policy, and I just would like to drill down into, is that this policy was enacted after we saw a number of situations across this country where people would drive their vehicles into crowds and parades and whatnot to, in essence, conduct a terrorist act or try to kill people that were protesting. And that is why this policy allows for actually shooting at moving vehicles. Otherwise, it is discouraged and we train that it is not effective to shoot at moving vehicles under normal circumstances. Does your use of force policy include a duty to intervene? Yes. 200.4 states, any officer present or directly observing another officer using force beyond that which is objectively reasonable under the circumstances shall, as soon as practicable, intercede to prevent the use of unreasonable force. An officer who observes or has information that another employee uses force that exceeds the degree of force permitted by law shall promptly report the incident to a supervisor. Does your use of force policy require a use of force continuum? The term use of force continuum refers to an outdated use of force model. As a state accredited agency, our use of force policy is based on the fundamental concepts of de-escalation, reasonableness, and necessity, which is backed by case law and Supreme Court case law as well. Touching on use of force, I think this is an important number to point out. We don't use force a lot here at Bothell PD. We are not required to. Our officers do a really good job at de-escalating. We average over 29,000 incidents per year. And of those incidents, 0.074% of the time, we're required to use force. I think that's an important number to note when you compare us with other agencies around the country. And, you know, we focus heavily on our training on de-escalation and communicating with people to get people to comply. And it shows in our numbers. Does your policy require comprehensive reporting? Yes, most certainly. As a state-accredited agency, we're required to ensure we meet a lengthy list of standards as set forth by the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police, otherwise known as WASPIC. The Bothell Police Department has been a long-standing state-accredited agency because we continue to meet these standards. One of the standards involves the reporting of force used by officers, and it requires that any force capable of causing injury has to be reported. All use of force events are thoroughly reviewed by a supervisor, a division captain, and a professional standards unit to ensure compliance with these policies, state standards, and legal requirements. In certain cases, such as an officer-involved shooting or deadly force encounter, an independent investigation team will be assigned to investigate the incident. Another question that's been asked quite a bit during these the emails that I've received is, do your officers wear body cameras? Currently, we do not equip our officers with body cameras. However, the department supports the implementation of body-worn cameras. I'm a big fan of this program. There is a wide range of budgetary and legislative concerns that we have to come to grips with and deal with. But the biggest issue for us, it's cost on the implementation of the program. We will continue to monitor the legislative actions regarding these issues, and we will seek direction as we move forward with our budgetary process in the next few weeks. Another common question is, how is your department evaluated for policing and law enforcement? Ultimately, our community evaluates us and our service. We work with you, and our actions and public safety services must meet the community needs and standards. We are a state-accredited agency, and we have been for many years. As such, we are operating under the defined industry standards to include areas such as code of conduct, internal affairs, prisoner security, hiring, retention, training, discipline, de-escalation, and use of force. In 2019, we were reaccredited, which is a process we complete every 4 years. As part of the process, we meet 137 different standards set forth by WASPIC to show we are in compliance with best practices and standards. Of the 244 law enforcement agencies in Washington, we are one of 52 that are designated as accredited. As I wrap this up, talking about the 8 can't wait and some of these other questions that have been brought forth, I think it's also important to know with the accreditation process that best practices and standards are constantly being evaluated and adjusted. And as the chief of this agency, I'm listening to the community. I'm looking at what best practices are, and we are more than willing to make changes as we move forward. We represent our community, and we want our community to feel safe. We want them to feel heard, and we want to represent what they want from us. I have attached a couple links on here for additional information. We have posted our policy manual online for anybody to open up and take a look at. It's no secret. We're pretty proud of it. And I'd like to open this up for questions that anybody may have.
Chief, thank you very much for that presentation. Very informative and those frequently asked questions are frequently asked questions from all the emails and communications I've had. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you. And Chief, I know that you are answering and calling people who have questions, and I think your bullet points that you made tonight are really important, and I appreciate all that you're doing. I think Bothell should be proud of their police force, and you are members of our community, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. We know that we're not perfect, but we're trying to be. We're trying to be a leader in the industry, a leader in our community. And so if there are things that change with case law and best practices, we're going to take a hard look at that and make changes where necessary, very much like our LVNR and chokehold policy.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Chief Seuberlich, just one question, one comment.
One was, you said that we had .074 calls in Bothell that require force, and then you had data, and I was too slow to write it, and that translated into 1 in 1,000 something. What was that?
Yes, it was. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. So we responded to 29,000 incidents on average over the course of the year.
Okay.
Incidents that required force accounted for 0.074% of the incidents that we responded to. Roughly 1 out of every 1,355 calls for service.
Okay. Or 19 total?
On average, yes.
Okay. All right, so that's my question. My comment is, I spent my whole weekend answering emails.
Council member or Deputy Mayor Zorns?
And I got feedback from some people who said how they appreciated getting the information that you've laid out here, that it gives them greater peace of mind. So if you haven't heard that from
Deputy Mayor
people on
Zorns?
the street, I'm hearing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
So if I could jump in, we're having some technical difficulties. If we could take a quick break to try to figure them out, I'd appreciate that. We could go to recess for 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Just had some technical difficulties. I hope we got them all ironed out. So I think Deputy Mayor Zorns, you were going to ask question, make a comment.
I think I finished my question and comment to the chief. You heard me pass on that it was reassuring to the public to hear. Okay, we're good.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember McAuliffe. Can you do your microphone?
Chief, could you speak to the Navigator program, please? I think that's something that's very important in Bothell and in our region.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Maybe I skipped over this during the presentation. We have a Navigator program as part of our Safe and Secure levy, but we also participate in what's called the radar program, which is it's a North Sound radar program, which is response awareness, de-escalation, referral. That is the umbrella program that actually manages the navigators that actually go out in the field with the 5 partnering cities. So going back to the slide that I had on earlier, of the 5 cities, we've made contact with 446 individuals in crisis over the course of 2019. Those are people that, quite frankly, the police just aren't the best trained individuals to contact these people. They're in mental health crisis. We're not mental health professionals. And having these navigators out there in the field to actually help these people in crisis is great. It's great for de-escalation. We put together a response plan for individuals once we've had contact, so we can try to avoid things that would set them off in hopes of getting them the help that they need and not escalating them.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just had a question. You mentioned you had recently reevaluated one of the policies, I believe, around chokeholds. Are there any other policies that you're currently evaluating as of right now?
It really is it's been daily for the past 2 weeks. But, we are continually looking at policies. This isn't something that you just do and set aside for a year. Case law changes, best practices change. It is, that's why we have a risk management division, a captain who is solely assigned to identifying those policies that are outdated, keeping those things up to date. And again, what are best practices today may not be best practices tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, a year from tomorrow. Things change. Case law changes. How people want their police to police changes. And, I think we're very fortunate in the Northwest, having WASPIC, who works close with the state legislature. We have a number of groups working together in collaboration.
Chief Seuberlich, I'm sorry to interrupt again. It seems that I've just gotten word from someone watching, and it says that the Planning Commission is still in recess. So is there any way for us to determine whether we are actually live?
We look live. We have the on air. We're live. Just got the thumbs up from the.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Thank you.
If I can kind of go back, I think we've collaborated in the state, and I think I-940 is a great example of that, which turned into House Bill 1064, which resulted in a lot more training for police officers. It has a higher accountability level, which I think is what the public wants from their law enforcement when it comes to officer-involved shootings and whatnot. Is it perfect? No. But it's a great first step. And honestly, from a state level, I would like to see other states follow our lead on that. I truly think that we are a leader in the nation when it comes to that police accountability that our state passed.
Chief.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, Chief. I'm encouraged by your comments around continuing to always get better and improve. Your department, probably over the last 3 weeks, seems like they've been out more on the streets than I've seen them. Can you speak a little bit to what proactive policing means to you and what it could mean to our community?
I'll do my best. Proactive policing to me is more than just crime fighting. Proactive policing is being available to your community and the community's needs. What I believe may be our top three may not be your top three things that you want to see from police. And the only way we get to know that is by interacting with the community and getting out there, developing relationships in the community. One of the things that I look as a cornerstone for community policing is it's building the relationships. If your community doesn't trust you, it doesn't trust the job you do, you're kind of powerless. You're not meeting the community's needs. We work for the community. And so that is really the cornerstone of community policing and proactive policing. Getting out there, finding out what the problems are. Recently, we had a house up in the north end of the city that we had a community meeting on. It was a problem house, and we ended up working with the homeowner to actually get it resolved in record time. I honestly was shocked that the landlord took care of the problem so quickly. That has not been my experience, so I was amazed. But we wouldn't have been really aware of that house if the community hadn't brought forth the issue. And we have to make ourselves available to that and seek out that information. One of the reasons we created a downtown business district beat, our Boy 5, as it's called, is because of listening to business owners, listening to people that are downtown, wanting to, pre-COVID, go out and actually enjoy our nightlife here in Bothell, and wanted to, have police officers available on bicycles or EATV or out walking around. So proactive policing, it's not just law enforcement. It's out there developing relationships within the community and making yourself available. And quite frankly, and this is probably very anti-cop, but vulnerable to what the community wants, and being willing to change course should the community want to go in a different path. Does that help? Does that answer that?
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's amazing. I mean, I know you guys have in the past done a lot. You have the coffee event that you guys host frequently. One of the messages is that officers don't live within. You're hearing the national narrative. Officers don't live within their community, but I feel like when I meet the officers within the Bothell Police Department, they are part of our community. It feels more natural. It's not like they're from down south or something like that and coming up here to Bothell to be a police officer. It feels like they're part, and it's a sense of community when I talk to the officers. So I wanted to give you that piece of positive statement there that I do feel like they're part of our community, not just police officers within our community. Can you speak a little bit to how large of an area an individual officer would patrol?
Sure. So in the city of Bothell, we have 5 beats, and we tried to break up the city so each beat is roughly the same size. So years ago when I first started, back in 1994, we had 4 beats. And everything south of the slough and downtown up, everything south of the slough was 1 beat. We had the Boy 2, which was a huge, massive beat downtown. which encompasses the downtown business district, the PD. It was whoever ended up with the boy two was carrying the load that day. So back about, I want to say in 2017, we really started doing a deep dive when Chief Carol Cummings was here, and I worked with her on trying to even it out. Because if you have an officer who's just going call to call to call to call, you can't develop those relationships. You have no free time. And that actually turned into the public safety levy issues that were brought forward, is that we hadn't really changed a lot in the city in the 25 years that I was here. The beats were pretty much the same. Everything had stayed static, but the city had grown tremendously. Our daytime population had grown exponentially. So we were looking at, okay, what model do we want to go with to try to get more officers in the field so we have more what's called undirected patrol time. And that's where the levy came in. And that's when we went to the community and asked for those additional bodies, so we weren't just responding call to call to call. It's our desire to have that free time to, honestly, I don't want to make it sound silly, but to be able to go to the grade school and have an officer read to the kids up at the school. Or like one of my motor officers goes up and plays basketball at West Hill, or Maywood Hill, excuse me. It's those kind of things that matter. It's the relationships. It's letting people know, hey, we're just people. We may wear a badge, but we're people. We are fallible. We have our issues just like everybody else. But we have a pretty thorough screening process compared to other jobs. And I think here in Bothell, we do a really good job getting the right people in here that are here for the right reasons. We've all seen or potentially experienced police officers that probably shouldn't be doing it for a living. I feel really fortunate that we don't have that. Not to say an officer may not have a bad day, and we could have a discussion about that. But these people are here. They want to make a difference in the community. They want to build relationships. They want to protect. They want to serve. I think as we have moved forward with that public safety levy and we're bringing these people on board, you're going to see more of that. I want to see more officers on bikes. I want to see more officers at schools. I want to have more community meetings. I will tell you this COVID-19 has really thrown a wet blanket on a number of my plans that I had for this spring. But I'm excited that once this thing opens up, people will be, especially with the energy we have right now in the community, with people wanting to make change, we're going to be able to bring people together, have a discussion, and let them know how we operate. There's nothing to hide here. I want to share Bothell PD with people and what we want to do. So I don't want to ramble.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect, Chief. And I think for the limited audience that we have on our council meetings, I think it's important that they know how to connect with the police, with our police in the city of Bothell. And I think you touched on the human element, human touch, human connection in a positive manner. The more positive interactions that you have, the more people are going to start to build that trust. And so I applaud you. Thank you for your service to the city of Bothell. Continue the great work. Let me and the rest of the council know how we can help you get out into the community more and show all the great positive things that you guys are doing. So thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you, sir. The one thing that I would just ask is that when you're talking to your constituents, what can we do? What can we do to help, to make a difference? We're doing our best. We're trying to listen, but my office is open. I want to make those connections. I want to provide the level of service that our community wants, and my people do too. So I guess that's my one request is just call me, send me an email, work through the city manager, however you want to do it. But I'm here for you and I'm here for the community.
Chief, that was a great presentation. I think you really communicating well to the community. So I think your presentation will alleviate a lot of concerns that the residents have had, that we're just like every other police force out there. I think we're exemplary, and you're a excellent leader of this excellent staff. So thank you very much, and continue the high level of service and great work.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I would like to say I'm honored to be part of such an amazing team, both at the executive level and within my own organization. From the bottom to the top, I work with great people. So I really feel fortunate to be here working in the city of Bothell.
All right. We'll move on to our next agenda item now. We have council committee reports. Does anyone have a report they'd like to share? Deputy Mayor Zorns?
I'll go fast. A couple of things. I sat in on another chamber lunch today, and the chatter that was going on there was that businesses are starting to reopen where they can. Real estate is feeling robust on the buyer's end, not the seller's end, but on the buyer's end, and that the chamber lost a third of their revenue due to COVID. And then LTAC met today, and Danae is going to be coming to us with some new budget changes, but to just kind of give you a bird's eye view, she was able to work a reduction in our contract with StreetSense, so it's halved from $265,000 to $162,000, so that's a nice savings. With that came that the guarantees for like emails and email signups and followers on Instagram, those expectations would be halved. New revenue sources are being pursued, so stay tuned to those. It sounds like a good one. And then COVID for the hotels, it's been really rough for them, and we were joking about how shoulder season looks pretty good right now, but they've taken a hard hit. So that's my update.
Thank you. Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got two quick updates. Last week, thank you for council for showing our support for the policy of the Sound Cities Association forego the increase for the public health emergency resulting impact. So during the PIC meeting, PIC took a position to not increase. I stayed the course and presented Bothell's position that we were okay with the increase, but just wanted council to know that the majority of the cities around the table did not support an increase at this time. Today we had a transportation meeting that was combined with Seashore, which is the north end, ETP, East Side, and Skateboard South End. We had updates from Metro, Sound Transit, and Congressman Adam Smith came and spoke regarding some of the transportation issues and things that are forthcoming. I'm not sure if Councilmember Thompson wants to give an update on some of the things there, but thank you, Councilmember Thompson, for attending.
Councilmember Thompson? Or not?
I attended. Councilmember McNeil gave a great summary.
Great. All right. Anyone else? All right. Councilmember McAuliffe.
Yes, I just want to comment on the closing of Main Street. We appreciate that has happened. I think the businesses that I have talked to are really excited about, window shopping, putting clothes out on the sidewalk, kind of having people have a little bit more experience in the restaurants. And I will tell you, the ordinance for allowing tables and chairs in the parking areas, it was accepted wholeheartedly, and the residents are very excited and very pleased. So I just want to say Bothell is helping our small businesses, and I appreciate that. And so do our people.
All right, on to visitor comment. City Clerk, I believe we have one.
Yes, we have one live person on the line who would like to do a public comment. Her name is Sarah Gustafson. Sarah, if you're on the line, could you please identify yourself? I'm not sure.
Madam Clerk, it looks like there are 3 call-in users, 3, 8, and 12, and they've all been muted. Perhaps you could unmute them.
She's working on it. One moment, please.
Paul, can you see if you can possibly unmute them?
Hello, this is Sarah.
They are all unmuted. Okay, Chief, I believe Sarah is call-in user number 12. I'm going to mute 3.
Thank you, Sarah. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. My name is Sarah Gustafson. I live at 10808 Northeast 154th Place. I'm calling in about the public comment process itself. Our city staff has created a virtual process where we can safely express our views. So a big thank you to Laura Hathaway, Robin Schaefer, the city's legal and tech teams, and everyone else who helped. Now, currently, written comment is forwarded to the City Council and summarized in the meeting, but many of us want to read the full document. So my question is, can the city compile the written public comments and publish them? Maybe not on the same day as the meeting, but perhaps adding them as an attachment to future council agendas so that we could see the past meetings comments when we open up the new agenda. Maybe personal addresses should be admitted, but it would be great to see all the comments, even from April 7th onwards. There have been so many positive conversations in the city lately, how to respond to COVID, questions about policing practices and standards, discussions about racism and how to tackle that. And some of those ideas pop up in public comment. It would be great to read those and learn from them without doing a records request first. And finally, even when people can go back to City Hall, I urge the city to keep this call-in line open, especially for folks who have work responsibilities, home responsibilities, or travel or health considerations. On last week's call, it was so great to hear Ms. Laura Escude with some hopeful news from the library board, and I hope to hear from more people. So in the end, let's make our public comment options accessible to as many people as possible so we can keep learning from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yes, the public comment absolutely will be included as part of the packet. They need to be scanned in, and the final packet will include every single written public comment received for each meeting.
All right, excellent. Thank you, City Manager.
Mayor, can I just mention the amount of public comments we received for today?
Yes.
In summary, in addition to Sarah's comment that we just heard, we had a total of 44 written comments that came in today for, or I should say in the last few days, all in regards to the fireworks agenda bill. So we had 29 in favor of the ban, 14 opposed to the ban, and 1 person who expressed concerns and asked questions but did not take position. Like I said, total of 44 comments, and all comments have been forwarded to the City Council and will be made part of the record for the meeting. All emails will be scanned and included in the packet. We also have 2 written comments for the public hearing, which I can bring up at that time if you'd like.
Yes, we'll please do, and we will cover that later in the agenda. All right, then, on to item number 5, consent agenda. If someone would like to make a motion, Deputy Mayor Zorns.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Thompson.
Second.
All right, we have it. We have a motion by Deputy Mayor Zorns and a second by Councilmember Thompson to move the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on the matter? All right, seeing none, City Clerk.
Okay, I'm going to call you one at a time and take your votes. Deputy Mayor Zorns, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember Thompson, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember McNeil, yay or no?
Yay.
Mayor Olson, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew, yay or no?
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Dewar absent and excused.
All right, thank you very much. On to our next item, public hearing for AB 20-078, public hearing to consider adoption of resolution approving the 2021-2026 6-year transportation improvement program. So I'll open this public hearing now and go with Public Works Director Aaron Leonhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I am going to introduce 2 staff who are in the meeting this evening. First of all, Transportation Planner Sherman Gong is going to present the Transportation Improvement Program recommendation, and Capital Manager Steve Morikawa is also on the line to assist with any specific questions about projects. So I will turn it over to Sherman.
Hello, Mr. Sherman Gong, City Transportation Planner. Can everybody hear me here?
Hear you great.
Awesome. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. Here to talk to you tonight about the 2021-2026 6-year transportation improvement program. The goal of this presentation is to briefly just go over the TIP process and to discuss any changes to the TIP as we continue working through the capital facilities plan process that will be adopted by the end of the year. In general, let me start up my shared content here first. Give me a minute. Okay. So in general, the TIP is a subset of the Capital Facilities Plan, CFP. Therefore, the two processes are somewhat redundant since the transportation projects are already included in the CFP. However, we need to update and adopt our TIP annually as required by state law. And many grant agencies also require that the capital transportation projects to be listed on the TIP be listed on the TIP to be eligible for funding. Every 2 years, the city staff goes through a rigorous CFP committee and public input and council process to develop our CFP that includes transportation projects. This year, the TIP coincides with the CFP update, so the projects listed in the TIP is just a snapshot of the CFP, which is based on funding opportunities and project readiness at this point. Next year, when we update the TIP, it will match the adopted CFP and it will be much more accurate. Due to some anticipated reduced revenues this year, and possibly next year, the public and committee CFP input process is abbreviated and will not include the robust public and committee process. And frankly, this public hearing represents the public process for the TIP this year. However, most of the projects that are listed in the TIP and the CFP have already gone through a rigorous public outreach to identify them for either program. For example, many of the projects have already been identified through the comprehensive plan, a top 10 congestion study we conducted a few years ago, and the Safe School Walk Routes Task Force, as well as other public outreach efforts. This table represents the proposed 6-year TIP list of projects. In general, staff recommendations on which projects to include were based on projects that have already been started, that have already obtained some grant funds for their initial phases, projects that are very competitive for grants or were design ready, and projects that are overlapping other infrastructure needs possibly, or we had previous commitments for implementation. There were 7 new projects added to this TIP list. 2 projects are maintenance related. They are the Bothell Way Rockery Repair Project and the Multi-Way Boulevard Street Light Conversion Project. We added 1 small project for an intersection improvement at 35th Avenue Southeast and 240th Street Southeast, which we felt would compete very well for TIB funding, and also had Snohomish County Transportation Impact fee funds available. The remaining 4 intersections are generally overlay projects that we also felt would be very competitive in grant applications, as well as having some funding identified through our pavement preservation program. One thing I wanted to point out on this, the minor correction on this table, is project 26, which happens to be the 35th and 240th intersection project I just spoke of. It shows $1,210,000 under other agencies in this, and it should be should be moved over a couple columns to the mitigation/other column. So our next steps is if council adopts this TIP tonight, will be to submit that to the state for the record, complete the CFP adoption process later this year, and then begin preparation of the 6-year TIP for the 2022-2027 period early next year. Our staff recommendation at this time is to adopt the proposed resolution approving the 2021-2026 6-year TIP. And I'll open that up for questions at this time.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Well, I will confess that I have not given this as much attention as I have on some of the other agenda bills. So if I sound ignorant, I might be just a little bit. We did get a couple of letters from people who were concerned about a section of East Riverside Drive being pulled off of the TIP, and it's a section that has concerned me for a long time. It's between the 2 mobile home parks on East Riverside Drive. We travel that a lot, driving back roads, to avoid traffic on 405. And we've noticed that pedestrians have to walk in mud or in traffic to go around parked cars. One of my family members observed that it's the most underserved population in Bothell with pathetic bus service. So I guess my question is there a way to either, I understand there's no visible funding in the pipeline, but is there a way that we can keep that project visibly on the back burner so that when those funds can be pursued, we can do that.
Yes, the project, even though it's taken off the TIP, was put back on our transportation needs report and the needs list. And at this point, we've tried to, engage King County and looking at that project and raising it in priority from their side. And since they are the ones that are actually controlling that property and the easement there, and as well as the project, we need to wait till they are kind of on board with it. Otherwise, we will we can keep that on our tip as well, but we can't move on it until the county is really ready to go.
Okay, so I appreciate that. But there's a way for us to keep that visible so that when people down the road go, what can we work on? This is really a high priority for those, especially those people who live in those mobile home parks who may be doing a lot of walking, and they do, or ride their bikes. So if we can find a way to not put them in a box, but keep them still tucked in and mindful of them, that would be great.
Okay, we'll take care of it.
That's the only, I think that's the only question that I have on that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a similar question to Deputy Mayor Zorns. It sounds like with the East Riverside Drive project that we are not in control of this or funding it, and we're completely reliant on King County to do so. Is that correct?
Well, I believe we would contribute, although I'm not 100% sure. I have to check. I would kind of defer that question to my Capital Division Manager, Steve Morikawa. I believe we would probably partner with them in my opinion.
But fundamentally, we're not looking at moving this off of the TIP because we are deprioritizing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Because I do agree with Deputy Mayor Zorn, that area is drastically underserved. I ride my bike into downtown Bothell regularly, and I ride there by myself when I am by myself, but when I have my cargo bike and my kids, I don't, because I have to take the lane. There's corners, people drive quickly. It's just, it's not safe, and it's like the only way that I can get into town without having to cut through Kirkland and Woodinville, coming from Queens Gate. So as long as that's still on our radar, and it's something that if we do have an opportunity to, we'll jump on as soon as possible. That's what I would like to hear.
Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing too much else. All right, then, if there's no other questions or comments, excellent. City Clerk says we have 2 written comments. We did, yeah.
I just wanted to mention, Mayor, that we had 2 written public comments that came in today. Deputy Mayor Zorns mentioned them briefly when she spoke, but to be more comprehensive, we had Bill Moritz urging council not to accept the ERT from 102nd Avenue Northeast to the eastern city limits on Northeast Woodinville Drive, council not to accept that they be deleted. Patrick Ewing also wrote in urging council to keep the East Riverside Trail project on the TIP. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk. All right, on to a motion then. Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Thank you, Chairman. I move that we adopt the proposed resolution approving the 2021-2026 6-year transportation improvement program.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Zorns, a second by Councilmember McAuliffe. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. City Clerk?
Okay, when I call your name, please state yay or no. Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Yay?
Councilmember Thompson.
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Yay.
Councilmember McNeil.
Yay.
Mayor Olson.
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew.
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Dewar absent and excused.
All right, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherman. All right,
You're welcome.
On to AB 20-079, consideration of an ordinance adopting the state sales tax credit and direct revenues received to the Arch Trust Fund. So I believe we have Director Chris Bothell. Yep. Actually, did we want to take a break now? I'm seeing that we had a, so, nope, I have one right here that's a break. And so, all right, while we wait for Director Bothell, we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be back at, let's see that clock. Oh, there's Director Bothell. So we'll be back at 7:40. All right. All right, we're back. And we have Director Bothell with us to speak about AB 20-079.
Thank you. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. Okay. So in September of last year, the City Council approved a resolution of intent to participate in the state revenue sharing program. The item that I have for you tonight is an ordinance that formalizes Bothell's participation in the program. I'll start with a brief recap of the program. So during the 2019 state legislative session, lawmakers created a program to help cities and counties fund affordable housing. The program authorizes the state to share a portion of the sales tax that it already collects, so participation in the program does not increase taxes in cities that choose to participate. Participation by cities is optional. Funding provided to cities is based on sales tax collections. The amount funded will be 0.73% of a city's sales tax collections in 2019. And Bothell is estimated to receive approximately $108,000 annually for 20 years if it participates in the program. The amount that participating cities will receive will not change over the 20-year life of the program. So allowable uses of funding are described in the legislation as follows: acquiring, rehabilitating, or constructing affordable housing, operating and maintaining new affordable housing, and or rental assistance. Additionally, those benefiting from the program must be at or below 60% of adjusted median income for the area. Currently, for Bothell, that is below $65,000 of income for a family of 4. Also, pooling of funds is acceptable per the legislation. So participating cities can choose to pool their funding with other local jurisdictions or a housing authority, provided the funds are used for a qualifying purpose. And finally, the funding can be used to pay debt service on qualifying projects. As part of this item, we're asking the City Council to confirm that, if approved, the proceeds of the program would be used to make an ARCH or trust fund contribution unless designated for another purpose in the budget. So the process to implement the program takes just 2 steps. As I noted earlier, the first step, the passage of a resolution of intent to participate in the program, was completed in September of last year. The second step is for the City Council to approve an ordinance to levy the tax credit. That is the subject of this agenda item. And the city must pass an ordinance by July 27th, 2020 to participate in the program. So the recommended action is to approve the ordinance imposing the tax credit and direct staff to contribute the proceeds to the ARCH Trust Fund until the proceeds are redirected to another use in a future adopted budget. That is the end of the presentation. Happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Director Bothell. Any questions from the council? Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, but I just need you to go a little bit further into the sales tax, because if we have a reduction in sales tax due to our problems with our economy right now, what would that mean over the next 20 years?
So one interesting aspect of this program is that the sales tax that we'll receive, or the percentage of sales tax we'll receive, is based on 2019 collections. So when the legislation came out, we thought, okay, we're going to be frozen with this lower sales tax amount. But now that we've ended up in this questionable economic, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and sales tax is going down this year, it's actually a good thing for us. So for the life of the program, we're going to receive approximately $108,000, and that won't change.
Thank you.
Do you want me to respond to the comment from, or the question from Councilmember Thompson?
Yeah, Councilmember Thompson. Oh, there we are. We got your video back. Councilmember Thompson.
I was just like I said in the chat, I was just going to clarify that the net of this is it doesn't cost anybody in Bothell any more in taxes, and we get $108,000 a year to put toward affordable housing, correct?
That is correct.
This will probably be the easiest vote that I have tonight then.
All right, Councilmember Agnew.
This appears to be a win-win for everybody. I'm definitely in support of this.
All right, seeing no further questions or comments. Councilmember Thompson.
I move the recommended action.
Councilmember Agnew.
Second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Thompson, a second by Councilmember Agnew to approve the ordinance adopting the sales tax credit and direct staff to use the revenue received to fund the annual Arch Trust Fund contribution to Arch for the amounts received in 2020 and subsequent periods, unless a different qualifying use is identified in subsequent adopted budgets. Any discussion on the matter? All right, seeing none. City Clerk?
When I call your name, please say yay or no. Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Yay.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Yay.
Mayor Olson.
Yay.
Councilmember McNeil.
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew.
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Dewar absent and excused.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. All right. On to AB 20-08, consideration of an ordinance prohibiting the sale and use of fireworks in Bothell. City Manager Jennifer Phillips.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. A very brief presentation. This item was placed on the agenda. There was an advisory vote that occurred within the city of Bothell in 2016 with regards to banning or keeping fireworks within our community. Over the last couple of years, each 4th of July, there seems to be discussion both within the community, emails and letters that are received by the council and the administration, as well as discussion among the council with regards to fireworks. There was discussion last year. We had a very dry spring, and there were concerns about the heat and the weather, and city staff actually monitored the heat and the conditions during the month of June to determine if it was actually safe to have the fireworks, which it was, but it prompted more discussion with regards to the fireworks. State legislation requires that if a city is going to ban fireworks, it must do it a year prior to the next 4th of July. And at the March goal setting, I had intended to bring this item to the council to get direction on whether the council wanted to address this issue again. We canceled the July goals, the March goal setting because of COVID-19. And I realized that all of a sudden it was June, and so I inquired with the mayor whether he would like to put this on the agenda for council discussion, as it was June, and this would be the opportunity for council to have a discussion. If they so desired to have a ban, this ban would take effect for the July 4th, 2021 and beyond. So it will not affect, any kind of ban will not affect the 4th of July for 2020. So this item is on for discussion purposes. There is no staff recommendation, and I am here to answer questions. The fire chief is here, the fire marshal is here, deputy chief, and the chief of police is here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, City Manager. All right, I'm not seeing any yellow cards come up yet, so I guess I'll start out with this one. I'll just speak briefly. I'm going to be in support of this ban. I think since the advisory vote, we've had, I think just the region has changed. We're one of the last cities in the area. We're an island. Every year, I think you hear anecdotal evidence, stories of people, especially on the boundaries of Bothell, of people just driving in, parking on the edge of the city and letting off fireworks, leaving all the garbage, all the debris, and then just leaving the city, going back to wherever they came from, just because we're one of the last locations, we're the closest city to Seattle, so it's driving this into our city at higher levels than I think we need. Just the air pollution that you experience from this, it's quite noticeable. It seems to get worse every year. Just hearing all of the comments from the citizens every year, you know, we get reminded of a resident that lost their house a few years back from a fire, from fireworks. So I'm going to be in support of this this ordinance banning the sale and use of fireworks in Bothell. Deputy Mayor Zorns, I saw your card.
This will probably be the time where you'll say, please don't have any council conversation because I'm going to hog the floor for a little while. I do have some questions. On page 75 of our agenda packet, the fee for getting a permit for fireworks went from $100 cash bond to $2,500. Can someone explain to me the jump on that? What the thinking was behind it?
I can. And this is City Attorney Paul Vern. So I had the discussion with Aaron Lenhart from Public Works, and essentially the change would be if there were a professional licensed fireworks show. And the reason that the fee went up is that, in theory, if a show were licensed and the host of the event said, bye, we'll see you later, and didn't bother cleaning up the event, it would cost way more than $100 of staff time to go in and thoroughly clean the site of that event. And so the staff estimate was actually much greater than $2,500, but we thought that because of the jump, that $2,500 is an approximation that would recoup enough of staff time to have us feel comfortable permitting a formal pyrotechnically licensed event.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if it was tied to cleanup. I have a couple more questions in the document. On page 78 of our packet, at the bottom, it said any permittee whose permit is suspended or revoked may appeal the decision of the fire chief to the King County Superior Court. What if they're in Snohomish County?
Because the seat of Bothell rests in King County,
okay.
You'll go to King County Superior Court. That would be true for criminal appeals as well, even if I'm included in the Snohomish County portion.
Okay. And then my last question is, it's on the very last page of this document on page 80. It's subpoint E on section 13, I'm guessing. It's any violation of the provisions of this chapter shall be punishable by imprisonment of up to 90 days and or payment of a fine not to exceed $1,000. What if it's somebody who has sparklers?
So that still is, so any fireworks would be banned. Sparklers are a Class C firework, and so those would be included in the ban. So that is illegal possession of fireworks is a simple misdemeanor, which is defined as punishable by up to 90 days and a $1,000 fine. That is ultimately up to the judge. If there were a prosecution and successful conviction, the judge would have the authority to impose up to that amount.
Wow. Way to rain on a 4th of July. Okay, so I'm going to read some emails because I answered a lot, and so bear with me. Every email that we got from people who were either for the ban or against the ban, I asked them about would they be okay with, and I just gave them three options of sparklers, smoke bombs, and poppets. You know, the things that you could get at a grocery store, little poppets. Because I think those are technically called fireworks. So I asked people, everybody, especially the people who said no, how they would feel about it. And one person said, this came from Tanya, said, there are a lot of benign novelties that are fun for kids, and that would be fun from my perspective, even fountains, floating lanterns, and such. Her concern is with the loud fireworks. And then Michelle said those particular items are not an issue. It's the huge explosions and fireworks. One person who doesn't want the ban is, it means a lot to her kids. Francine, who wants the ban, says she's fine with sparklers and poppets. It's the bigger fireworks that are an issue. Liz says it's just the artillery and heavy airborne stuff. Ketra said they've never had a problem, just maybe a little burn that just needed an aloe gel with. So she's fine with sparklers. Jenny Aldrich said that she wants to support the right of people to use fireworks, but she wants quiet hours. Christine is against any and all bans. Liam, not our Liam, a different Liam, said it's one night a year. And then we got a very sweet email from a Maddie, Annette, McKenna, and Scarlett, and I told them that I would share this. Says that it's one of the best things that they look forward to. So out of my data that I got, I had where I asked people about making a small provision. Only 5 wanted a total ban. 15 were fine 15 people that responded back to me were fine with doing a modification with smaller, what is often called novelties. And we had 14 who were against. I counted 14. What did we come up with the ban against people who didn't want the count? I don't remember what the count was that Robin said. So my biggest issue with the fireworks are, like our mayor said, is the out-of-towners who come and trash our streets and terrorize our neighbors who are on the periphery. That's a big deal. And another big deal to me is people with PTSD. And that's probably the most profound chief reason why we should worry about big fireworks here in our city. I will tell you a story of a neighbor in our hill who told me that 4th of July used to be his favorite holiday. And then he did a couple tours in Iraq and came back. And so his routine on 4th of July is to hold up in his basement, playing movies really loud so he doesn't hear the explosions. And one 4th of July, someone's aerial went rogue, shot through one yard and hit the side of his house. And we watched him come screaming out of his house, trying to figure out if it was a real danger or not. And that's the kind of terror that I don't want to inflict on people who have served our country. That's where my heart starts breaking on this. And we had one case in one of our emails that someone lost their home from someone who had come in and done illegal fireworks. So someone suggested as options, and I'm just going to toss them out and rephrase them here, would be to have the police, if we were to vote this down, was to have the police go around and target areas unannounced, just focus in on community surveillance on who's got illegal. That seems like a heavy lift to me. Someone else suggested creating permitted zones. You know, that's going to take some work from staff, but that could be a possibility. And another person suggested creating requirements for property size and tie it to permits and have people just do them on their property. My suggestion when it's time is to make a amendment to this. So I will yield the floor for other people who want to make comments, and then I will give you my proposed amendment on this.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right, who was next? Councilmember Agnew, I think I saw yours a while ago.
Thank you. This has always been an issue in Bothell. We tried to, have a vote and see what the people want. And it came back about 50-50. the input that we received with the AB was almost 2-1 in favor of banning them. I don't know about modifications. I do know a sparkler is about 1,000 degrees. I do know that I spent a few years riding a fire engine, and the minute I got my shift, I looked to see if I was working Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, because you knew you were going to be busy on the 4th of July. Every 4th of July I worked, I dealt with whether it be a structure fire, whether it be a fire on the exterior of a house, there are trees, there are bushes, little kids getting burnt, somebody losing a finger. I mean, I've thought about this long and hard and understand both sides of it, no question. Councilmember Zorn brought up PTSD. I can tell you, I was walking down a beach in Monterey, California, the year I got back from Vietnam, and somebody threw up a quarter, and I was digging a hole. And people thought it was the funniest thing in the world. They were just laughing at me, and I was so embarrassed I couldn't help myself. But if I have my druthers, I'm going to support a ban. I think, as the police chief said, our lives are changing. Our community's changing. We can still celebrate our independence. We just have to blow each other up. And I'll reserve any more comment till later.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Everybody's brought up great points so far. I want to address the advisory vote in 2016 because I do think that matters. I think our context, and you mentioned some of this in your comments, has changed pretty dramatically since 2016. We've had some really dry summers, and we've had substantial wildfires across the state, and a climate change outlook that may make that more of the norm. There was also an advisory vote in Snohomish County, included part of Bothell, and it was 58% in favor of a ban. And so the Snohomish County Council voted to eliminate fireworks in the South Snohomish County Fire District this last December, and that ban will go into effect in 2021. And I think this matters because a couple other council members have brought up the fact that we're kind of an island, and a lot of people from neighboring cities come in to the Bothell neighborhoods on the border. And I think we're only going to see more of that after the Snohomish County Council took their action in December. We've gotten a lot of emails on this, and I'm sorry I couldn't respond to all of them, but I read all of them. Today especially, we've heard from lots of people who value the tradition of lighting fireworks off on the 4th of July, and so do I. It's fun. People talk about their kids looking forward to it, being able to spend time with their neighbors, and just simply enjoying lighting off fireworks. We also heard lots of people talking about how with COVID in our current context, almost everything else has been taken away, so please don't take this too. Obviously this doesn't apply to this year, but big picture, I think that all of those things have value and it matters. But the people who wrote in support of the ban also had stories to tell. I was really surprised in my campaign last year how much this came up. I wasn't expecting to hear about a fireworks ban while I was doorbelling as much as I did. Especially in the neighborhoods that border, Woodinville, Kirkland, Kenmore, that already have a ban. And, between the public comment that we got and people I talked to in my campaign, I heard from people who lost pets because they ran away scared and didn't come back. Both Councilmember Agnew and Councilmember Zorn mentioned veterans with PTSD. I spoke with one gentleman in my campaign who was embarrassed at how traumatic fireworks are for him, but they reminded him of the night his friends died. People, we heard in comments, have to plan ahead months in advance to make sure they have enough drugs to give their pets so their pets can get through the night. People who stay up almost all night with their young kids who don't understand why it sounds like the world is exploding. We heard from people who leave Bothell on the 4th of July to go to a place because they want to go to a place that's banned them so they can have a refuge. And we even heard from one Bothell resident in email who lost her home to fireworks. And to be frank, I've lived some of these experiences. I've been the parent holding a terrified child who was woken up by fireworks at 2 in the morning trying to calm him down. I've been the pet owner hugging my dog in the garage because he was so panicked. I live in an area close enough to a neighboring city that has banned fireworks that I see people walk up the street from there and spend all night lighting off fireworks in Bothell. Last year, I left after the parade on the 4th of July because I remembered the terrified look in my 2-year-old son's eyes the year before, and I wasn't going to do that to him again. Now, I don't have a dog anymore. My kids are getting older, and I'm fortunate that I don't suffer from PTSD. And I also think fireworks are a lot of fun. So please don't think that my personal experience is why I will be voting for a ban. I don't think it's fair to ask other people who are in those situations to have to pay that price every year moving forward. And when we hear stories from the people who are for the ban and against it, I don't find this to be a terribly difficult decision. I think Bothell should be a comfortable place to live for everybody who calls Bothell home, and it should be a comfortable place for them to live 365 days every year. And fireworks keep that happening. So I'll be supporting the ban. That's all I have.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
So I go way back. Over my 55 years living in Bothell, we came from a community that kind of let people do what they wanted to do. We didn't have a lot of restrictions. Everybody joined each other and supported, I want to say, the rodeos, the downtown Main Street kind of celebrations, the 4th of July forever. And in that time, I thought my kids, 5 boys and 1 girl, did a pretty good job of really managing their own fireworks. Now, maybe not everybody did, but when I was doorbelling, I'd go through neighborhood and neighborhood and neighborhood, and people were celebrating the 4th of July. And I didn't see a lot of damage or a lot of stories. There are a few, yes, of course. When I did the wedding business at Hollywood Schoolhouse, we didn't allow them to do sparklers outside in the dark unless somebody was managing to make sure nobody was burned or the sparklers were put out. So it's a matter of people being somewhat responsible and not prohibiting them from celebrating Independence Day. So, you know what? If we can replace it with something better, like international festival to celebrate America, or something better, I would be in favor of that. But I'm not in favor of just a ban that takes away something that people celebrate within their families. So I have a difficult time with this because I just think it's a family thing, and I'm a little concerned about banning it forever. There is an opportunity to ban it now and then make different changes to it for the next year because it doesn't ban it for this year. So I might be interested in that, but this is a real struggle for me. I know we've heard from a lot of people, but I will tell you that when I've been throughout the neighborhoods and I've seen families do this together, it's a great celebration for us. So it's a difficult issue.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I got to say, this is probably one of the most robust conversations that we've had in a while on a topic that means a lot to our community. I do have a couple questions that I'd like to clarify because I too, as several of the council members have said, at least Councilmember McAuliffe, I'm struggling with this. So I'd like to ask the chief, fire chief, how many, on average, how many incidents do we have in the city of Bothell on the 4th of July? Andy. I do have a couple questions I'd like to clarify.
We don't have a whole lot.
Several of the council members have said
The last 3 years, we've had 10 fireworks that were direct, or 10 calls directly related to fireworks. So it doesn't mean that's all the calls, but those are the calls that we have identified as having fireworks.
How many, on average?
One of those was a house fire we mentioned in 2018. And most of the fires are calls to have a grass fires.
Chief Cronin, sorry, can I interrupt?
We got it. We got it. You have we have a double, hold on a second. We have a double, reverb going on. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Got it. So, Chief, you need to turn off your computer so we can't hear what you're streaming. So you need to turn your volume off on your laptop so we can't hear what's happening because we're hearing your laptop. So you need to turn your mic on for WebEx, but turn the volume off on your computer. So in the far lower right.
Well, I've got my volume, but I can't hear.
You need to turn your volume off on your laptop.
Okay.
So we can't hear what's happening because we're hearing your laptop. So you need to turn your mic on for WebEx, but turn the volume off on your
window.
Yeah.
In the far lower right.
Yeah. The speaker one?
So, Chief Kroon, are you streaming on another internet window?
No, I was, but I've got everything turned off now.
For WebEx, but turn the.
Did you call in?
In the far lower right.
Hold on, let me see if I'm on this in place. Okay, how's that?
That's good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize about that. Somehow I got on the meeting twice, and it was hidden. It was from my view.
Yeah, it's actually a more common problem than you would think. But all right, thanks, Chief. If you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Councilmember McNeil. To address your question directly, quickly. The last 3 years, we've had 10 fireworks or 10 calls directly related to fireworks. Most of them grass fires. We put out quickly. We had a fire in 2018, was a house fire. I think some folks have referred to today, and very few injuries. Frankly, I think we've just been very lucky. As it is, we staff up a rig. We spend about $3,500 a year just to fully staff up an extra engine just in case. For the event. And as it's been mentioned a couple times, we are about the only jurisdiction in King County, in the central King County. Mercer Island is the only other one around us that has not banned fireworks. You have to go to South King County to get anywhere near fireworks, be able to use fireworks. And our neighbors to the north, Snohomish County, South Snohomish County Fire is banning them next year, so we will be an island going forward. So it's a matter of time, frankly. You know, we've dodged a bullet for a while. We've been very lucky. Our troops are very good. We get out there and get these fires out quickly. But if this continues and we turn into a focal point, I can see this getting potentially much, much worse.
Do you feel if we ban fireworks that we won't see fireworks in the city? Other jurisdictions like Kenmore and Kirkland, Woodinville as an example, they're going off 4th of July all the time in their band, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely right. I don't think we will. I think they will be available. If they're available on the Indian reservation, people will still get them. They'll still shoot them off if they're not supposed to. That's going to happen. But if we do have a ban, we will be able to legally monitor these things. And I think most citizens will recognize that and support that, and they won't be shooting them off. So you will have a problem like everywhere. Seattle, every city's got it. Bellevue, I was there for 20 years, and it had a ban for a long time, and it's all the time. But it's much, much less than when you allow them legally.
Fabulous. Okay, and then so to the fines, if a family of kids have sparklers or the little snakes that they light off in the yard, what if we ban them? What happens to that type of celebration?
I really couldn't speak to that. We would just work on enforcement and putting out fires. A lot of that goes down to police as far as coming out and actually citing people for that kind of thing. And maybe Paul could speak to that too as far as the attorney side. But we don't really get into that part of it.
Yeah, so I'm happy to comment on that. So what we've done in the past, we've had cases for illegal possession of fireworks. In the past, our arraignment calendar was on a Tuesday morning. So the Tuesday after 4th of July, the prosecutor at the time, Rhonda Geiger, would simply make an announcement at the beginning: if you're here for illegal possession of fireworks, follow me into this other room. And then she was able to give the speech about what the maximum penalty was all at once. Generally speaking, if a person didn't have any priors, they simply signed an agreement agreeing to have no criminal law violations for the following year. If they followed that, then the case was ultimately dismissed. I don't believe we had any prosecution of cases from last year, but I know that every year there's a handful of them. It's a bit of a misnomer to say it's 90 days in jail and $1,000 fine. That's the maximum. We're not going to put people in jail for 90 days for snakes. I hate to kind of overstep and kind of speak for the court, and I don't think I am, but the prosecutor's recommendation is not going to be for any substantial amount of jail time. But it is used, and perhaps Chief Seuberlich can speak to this. The officers, in my experience, have always gone out and really always done an educational component first and done a first touch, a second touch, and really people that are completely abusing it, that are the ones that are then contacted, and that there's any sort of formal charging that's forwarded to the prosecutor's office.
Okay. I merely asked the question because I know that several of the emails that we received came from families with young children. And the reason I say I'm struggling with this is because I'm past the time when I want to go out and light off fireworks. I enjoy them. I enjoy viewing them. But it's not like I'm going to go out in the middle of the street and light off a bunch of fireworks. But we hear from families with young kids that it's one of those things, one of those days where they can go out and they can gather with their neighbors. Obviously during COVID period of time, you have to social distance, but it's one of those things that they can do. And I think Councilmember Agnew alluded to the last vote being roughly 50-50. And the piece that I struggle with the most is I want to take my personal belief out of the equation. And I read through the emails. And the one thing that I picked up the most was the context of those emails and what people were saying, why they were for it and why they were against it. And what I took away from that was they all have a voice and they all want to be heard. If we receive one email or 47,000 emails, those emails are the voices of our community. And what I struggle with is we've changed. Our community is growing. There's more housing here. But what I'm struggling with is we're talking about doing something, banning something that our community, whether one vote or 500 votes or 5,000 votes, when we talk about percentages, they're numbers. They're true numbers. They're people who have spoken. And I'm struggling with taking something away from, a vote away from, a voice away from somebody without hearing from them or giving them the opportunity to speak up again. However, with that said, it is our responsibility to keep our community safe, first and foremost. And we receive information, a lot of information, that our community doesn't get. So again, I would say I'm struggling with it. I understand the safety component of it. I understand that we want to hear the voices of our community and ensure that, you know, their voice counts. And at the same time, we want to make sure we keep our community safe. So while I may not support this ban, it's not for the fact that I don't want to take the safety route and keep our community safe. It's more that I want to ensure that I've at least given people the opportunity to speak and have their voice heard, and not do it hastily and just make a decision based on a few rather than many. I have a lot more to say, about this, but I think, you know, I think we all have our community's best interest at heart. I'm struggling with the community made a decision 4 years ago, and we're changing that. If we change that tonight, we're doing it without listening to the percentage that wanted it.
All right. I believe everyone's had a chance to ask their questions and make comments. So if someone would like to make a motion on this item. Councilmember Agnew.
My card just walked off, and I would like to make an amending motion. When is a good time for me to do that?
After Councilmember Agnew makes a motion.
I recommend that we approve the attached ordinance prohibiting the sale and use of fireworks within the limits of Bothell.
Councilmember Thompson.
Second.
All right, so we've had a motion by Councilmember Agnew, a second by Councilmember Thompson. Deputy Mayor Zorns.
I would like to make an amending motion that we add the exemption of, except for sparklers, smoke bombs, poppets, and snakes in our ban on all fireworks.
Councilmember McNeil.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? I need some clarification on that, Councilmember Deputy Mayor Zorn.
Yeah.
You're talking about the use, or are you talking about you want those to allow to be sold as well as used? And
both, because I think the grocery stores sell a lot of these. You can find poppets in grocery stores and in drugstores. They're pretty common. And yeah,
thank you.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second that for discussion.
All right, so we have a amendment motion by Deputy Mayor Zorns, a second by Councilmember McNeil. Any discussion on the matter? Councilmember McAuliffe.
I think my concern is this. Who is going to monitor whether you're using the exemptions or using other fireworks? I mean, are we going to ask our police to go out and monitor this? I just think it's a burden that we shouldn't have to be responsible for. We have enough of a problem today with people trying to be treated in a fair way, regardless of culture or colors or whatever they are, and now we're going to monitor fireworks? I can't support that.
City Manager, do you have something to add to that?
So it also has to do with the sale of the fireworks. So as you know, with fireworks being legal in Bothell, we get a request for permits to issue permits to have fireworks stands in the city of Bothell. And so one of the things that this ban would do is prohibit the sale of all the other fireworks and only allow the sale of the ones that the Deputy Mayor Zorns mentioned. So that would be a significant, I don't know what the word is, deterrent when you actually can't purchase them in the city.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Yeah, no, I was not meaning to imply that you set up stands just for those items. In fact, if the sale, if you just want to limit the sale to where it's already legal in grocery stores and other retail, I'm fine with that. They're already doing that anyway, year round. You can walk in and buy. They'll have pop-ups on the shelf somewhere. So, no, I'm not trying to infer that we need to permit and provide for fireworks stands just for those several small things. But I do think that by allowing this, it allows families with small children. I didn't even put, because I've had this conversation with before, that fireworks that are fountains are very hard to maintain, to judge whether they're legal or not, because there's a legal height for some. And then there's other fountains that once they're spent, they look legal, but they are illegal because they shoot so high up in the air. So I didn't even include fountains on this, but I did want to provide for families and special events that happen to have a small tradition that we all had as kids growing up, and most kids get without penalty. And as Councilmember McNeil pointed out, we are going to have people who will always be violating and trying to sneak in fireworks. So the police will, on the 4th of July, whether it's legal or not, are still going to have to be answering calls for people who are shooting up fireworks. They're not going to go door to door and see who's firing off fireworks. They're not doing that now, and they won't do that when this is illegal, if we vote for that. So I don't think the policing is going to change significantly by allowing it, but I think that it provides for those young families and special events to have a small celebration without putting anyone else at peril or risk.
Anyone else like to speak to the amendment? Councilmember Agnew.
I won't be supporting the amendment. Sparklers, they burn at about 1,100 degrees. I've seen lots of injuries from those. If we're here to if we're doing this to protect the citizens, then let's protect the citizens. The people I feel the most sorry for is the people that have the stands. The baseball club, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. These are the people where 90% of their income comes on the sale of fireworks during the 4th of July. And that's why I have the most empathy for it. But I won't be supporting the amending motion.
Councilmember Thompson.
I think the amending motion seems like a nice compromise, a nice way to give something to the people that really do take this tradition seriously. None of the issues that I have heard about that I mentioned earlier have to do with those small handheld, not noisy fireworks. So I will be in support of the amendment.
All right, I like the amendment. I appreciate the novelty level of these items. I think as far as the enforcement of it, I think the people that get these large aerial displays and everything are basically someone with a big red flag waving it to, saying, come, check me out, see what I'm doing. Hey, I don't believe in the ordinance here. So I think, just by their police normal patrols they won't have to do anything special to find these people that are using these offending fireworks, and the people with the small poppets and everything. I mean, they're small, and I mean, just the novelty level. So I think I'll be in support of this amendment. All right, seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the city clerk.
When I call your name, please state yay or no. Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Yay.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Nay.
Was that a no, to be clear?
That was a no.
Thank you. Councilmember McNeil.
Nay.
Mayor Olson.
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew.
Are we voting on the amended motion or the motion?
Amending motion.
Okay. No.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
No. Nay.
I have 1, 2.
This is the city attorney Byrne by pound. It was 3-3. So you did not achieve a majority, so the amending motion fails.
All right. Thank you. So back to the original motion. So the original motion was the recommend action to approve the attached ordinance prohibiting the sale and use of fireworks within the city limit. So any further discussion on this? Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Sorry about that. Oh, again, my mic is still on. Without this amending motion, I'm going to have to vote no on this. And it's not that I don't think that we need to come up with some tight regulations, but I think it's too heavy-handed as it is and too Machiavellian. So my vote will be no on this.
All right, I'll just say that part of the reason I think this topic came up on the agenda tonight was so that we could have the ordinance approved before this year's 4th of July so that we could have it enacted by 2021. And so we can always work on the language or tighten it up or make amendments to it in the following year. But if we waited any further, then we'll be into 2022 before we do anything, have any inaction of this. So I saw some cards trying to poke up. Councilmember Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if I'm out of Robert's rules here or not. I probably am. Is there a way that we could vote to do this now since we have to do this today while also putting something on the agenda to talk about this at a concrete time in the future? I don't know if that would matter to Council or to Deputy Mayor Zorns or not, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
So as a matter of procedure, you can take action to approve or deny this item tonight, as long if someone wants to reconsider before the 4th of July or before, frankly, June 30th, you can always have a special meeting to bring this topic up, and then if the majority of council is willing, you can reverse the decision that you make tonight.
So if for whatever reason we can't carve out exceptions that the deputy mayor finds acceptable, she could always bring this back up for another vote, being the deputy mayor in the future, and on July 2nd next year, she could bring it back up, and as long as there are 4 votes, fireworks would be back on, correct?
The timing is a little bit off. So because we allow fireworks prior to July 2nd, which you would need to do it before the current code allows the sale of fireworks to begin.
Okay. But if we voted to pass this motion tonight, at any point in time the deputy mayor wanted, she could come back and bring this up for discussion, and we could take another vote to allow fireworks.
I'd have to review the rules for how an item is brought to the council. I don't know if a single council member is allowed to then control the agenda that much. It's not on the top of my head right now. But yes, the council can always bring an item back. Just keep in mind that this item, because of the state law, you have any amendments that you make would take a year to become effective. So as long as today is June 16th, as long as this was brought back before council, if it's, regardless of what decision is made tonight, if council wanted to readdress this issue at a later date, but prior to June 30th, then you could do so.
Okay.
City Attorney, is that same for any amendments or modifications to the ordinance?
So it gets a little tricky. So if you wanted to pass, for the sake of argument, let's say you deny the ordinance tonight, you could always revisit the issue either through just putting it back on the agenda or through a motion for reconsideration. And so then you could then address, as you are discussing it, you can address whatever amendments the council, individual council members introduced that are then seconded and approved. If you were to pass it tonight and then you reconsidered and said, no, we want to do a carve out for the items that Deputy Mayor Zorn brought out, you could, again, through the process to bring something to the council agenda, you could always bring it back before June 30th and then revisit this. And those amendments, it'd be kind of like double dipping. Like you'd have the ban would go into effect, and then a few days later, the carving out of those items could then go into effect in time for 2021. But for 2020, it's already a done deal. Their fireworks are legal for 2020.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
I'm not a good gambler, so I don't like to. I like to make the best guess that I can here. If we were to not pass this tonight, could we still ask to redress this? Well, there's no reason why we couldn't anyway, but.
Correct.
But could we do it within a certain time frame? You know, say we have some really motivated council members who would like to do a team work on this, and we could only have 3 of us, and we could formulate and have this put together by June 30th. Could we do that?
Yes. So if you were to deny it tonight, one of the members of the quote-unquote winning side, which would be the deniers, would then have to make a motion for reconsideration, and then it could be brought forth in front of the entirety of council again. That would take place at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's similar if you were to approve it, then those people that, if someone who was on the approving side wanted to bring it back so that the amendments that you proposed could be further addressed, one of those members could then make that same motion for reconsideration.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
I guess, thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm a bit concerned that this issue would take us all this time in this meeting when there are so many bigger issues out there today. And I also feel that for the minority voices in our population, we have not heard from them. Many families really feel this is a celebration of who they are. So I hope we can reject this tonight and give our real whole community an opportunity to respond.
All right, seeing no further discussion. City Clerk? Oh, hold on. Councilmember McNeil?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I missed it, getting it up quick enough for you there. So I just want to make sure that I clarify, if we do not approve it tonight, we do have an opportunity to come back June 30th. Is that correct?
Prior to June 30th, yes.
Prior to June 30th. And if for some reason we don't come to a consensus by June 30th, then we can still take this up again for next year. Is that correct?
Correct.
The ban just would not go into effect until 2022, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We still have an opportunity to put an emergency ban on fireworks if there's an issue?
Yes, under the current code, yes.
So we could at any time ban fireworks if we deem it necessary to ban them?
If the conditions that are laid out in code are met, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, City Clerk, I believe we're ready now.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Zorns, yay or no?
No.
Councilmember Thompson, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe, yay or no?
No.
Councilmember McNeil, yay or no?
No?
Mayor Olson, yay or no?
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew, yay or no?
Yay.
Motion is tied 3-3, so it fails.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
I would like to see if you're willing as a group to redress this. And I'm fine putting some gas to the pedal, or pedal to the gas to the pedal, putting a little pressure on it to see if we can come up with something before June 30th so 2021 has some coverage. Otherwise, I'm happy to wait until we get into later in 2020 or into 2021 to get language that works for everybody.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
I think, given what we have going on today with the different families and economy and all the struggles people have, I want to hear from the community before I make this decision, from the whole community.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, I don't believe we have another meeting on the agenda, so is this going to be something we need to schedule a special meeting for if we do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you. Is it possible, Attorney, if 2 to 3 council members have a discussion on this matter, and then if we feel it's warranted to coming back, that we could bring it back?
Yes, so under the OPMA, up to the majority of council, the council in total is 7. So as long as 4 of you don't discuss it, you're allowed to discuss this item with whomever you choose. But only up to a total of 3 council members in any group can discuss an item outside of the presence of the public.
Okay, so if we don't make the decision to bring it back June 30th, that doesn't prohibit 3 council members from getting together, discussing this, and then if they feel like it, bringing it back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I would, Deputy Mayor, I would be willing to speak with you on this if you'd like, and see if it's warranted coming back.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. I would like it, and I think the community as a whole would like it, because as you said, a lot of voices have weighed in on this, and we need to make sure that they're all heard on this. And the objective is that people feel valued, and we also find ways to keep them safe. So yeah, I'm more than happy to talk with you.
All right, Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you, and I would be happy to have that discussion with both you, Deputy Mayor Zorns and James McNeil. I just think we spent so much time on this when there's so many bigger issues. It's really concerning me. There are people out there who are marching and protesting and caring about how we do things, and we spent this much time on fireworks. That's very disturbing to me. I'm sorry, but we'll have the discussion, but I think there's bigger things we need to be discussing.
All right, I think that's wrapping up this agenda. So Yes, we will take a break. So we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll come back at 8:50. All right, welcome back. We are on to AB 20-081, consideration of Snohomish County Public Works Assistance Fund Loan Agreement for Sewer Lift Station 4 replacement. So we have Public Works Director Aaron Leonhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Hello again, Council. I'm going to introduce Boyd Benson. He's the Public Works Utility and Development Manager to talk about this opportunity for a low-interest loan from Snohomish County.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. Boyd Benson here. I'm here tonight to discuss the proposed Snohomish County loan agreement for partial funding of lift station number 4, the Camden Sewer Lift Station project. A bit about the loan program itself. This is a competitive program for Snohomish County. In 2019-2020, there was approximately $1.1 million in loans available. The city competed for those loans. These loans are provided to help cities finance critical infrastructure projects. This lift station is approximately 35 years old. It's near the end of its design life. Replacement parts are no longer available, and it has a relatively high maintenance obligation for its relatively small size. So we competed well, and the county awarded us or offered us $75,000 of that $1.1 million. So for the loan itself, it's a low-risk loan, 1.5% over a 10-year term. It only funds a portion of the $685,000 project cost. But the city is always looking for opportunities such as this. Our revenues with respect to rates are relatively uniform over the years. Our facility charge revenue with respect to development can be forecasted pretty well, but these large capital expenses, which are necessary to keep our utility in good shape, are episodic. And if we can spread out the payment for those projects over time, it provides a more stable utility budget and also helps us avoid large fluctuations in our utility rates. So that's about the loan itself. I'd like to switch to the next slide just to give you a preview of the project. So this is a project in its current adopted capital facilities plan and the budget. It's scheduled for construction upon council approval in 2021. The city had completed some previous feasibility evaluations. It's a small lift station, and to describe a lift station is a collection point with pumps in an area of the city's sewer system where we can't gravity discharge to our ultimate discharge location, the King County Wastewater Treatment Division rooms. So it collects the sewage in a wet well in an underground vault and then pumps it uphill to where it can then discharge into our gravity sewer main system. So that's a wet well. Probably enough about that. But the city had looked at options. You can see the site it's up by the North Creek Forest. We looked at options of having a gravity main leading the lift station and having that gravity discharge in a new pipe through the forest. That was very expensive, and the potential permitting issues and impacts in the North Creek Forest are too large. So instead, we're looking at replacing the station in place, utilizing as many of the existing as possible, including the wet well with new pumps and other controls. So that's pretty much the loan and a brief preview of the future projects. Are there questions that I can answer about this proposed loan agreement?
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
So this loan, does it get paid back through the sewer utility rates or utility payments? How's the loan get paid back?
That's a very good question. Thank you. So any of these capital expenses are taken out of the ending fund balance of the utility. That's our ready cash to spend on projects. What it does is it gives us another, not going to say really revenue, but it gives us funds to spread payment out of that fund balance over time. So instead of 2021, we're paying for the full $685 at one shot to pay for the majority of that and then pay off the rest of the project at $75,000 over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
And then another question. What's the biggest enemy besides gravity for one of these lift stations?
That's a great question. Gravity really is a big deal because we always try to design these so everything flows downhill. We only have 4 lift stations in our system, and this is maybe the oldest lift station. It's also the smallest.
Okay.
So on things like this, when we look at lift stations, it's reliability. You're taking all the sewage from high points nearby, discharging to a low point, and then pumping it up. If the pump fails, if anything else fails, that's the enemy, because then there's no place for the sewage to go. So these systems always have multiple pumps, 2 pumps. They're always controlled with, not to use the acronyms, but with telemetry and the rest, so we know what's happening. And so as long as we stay on top of them and they're in good shape, we're good to go. But yeah, I like gravity and time.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's not a lovely subject, but it's something that's very needful, and we miss it when it's not working. So
exactly. Thank you.
So thank you for this.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. Thank you for your presentation. And I will look for a motion. No? Yes. Sorry, I looked away. There we go. Mason Thompson. Councilmember Thompson.
I move the recommended action.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Second. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Thompson, a second by Deputy Mayor Zorns to authorize the city manager to enter into Snohomish County Public Works Assistant Fund loan agreement for sewer lift station 4 replacement. Any discussion on the item? All right, seeing none, City Clerk.
When I call your name, please state yay or no. Deputy Mayor Zorns?
Yay.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe?
Yay.
Councilmember McNeil?
Yay.
Mayor Olson?
Yay.
Councilmember Agnew?
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Dewar, absent and excused.
Great, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron and Boyd. All right, on to item AB 20-082, update on the progress towards Council's 2019-2020 biennium goals. So on to City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a quarterly update. It's a little odd. So I want to explain sort of what our thought process was as we put this together. So normally we've been doing the quarterly goals scorecard for probably about 3 years now. And it's an opportunity for council to see the progress that's being made on each of your 10 goals. There are strategic objectives that are identified. The goals are adopted by council. The strategic objectives are adopted by council. And then that's what staff works on towards accomplishing your goals. And the scorecard is a way for us to report to you how we're doing on our progress towards achieving those strategic objectives, and then identifying any areas where maybe we're having a slowdown or there's a challenge. And it's an opportunity for council to intervene earlier and give direction and have a conversation about anything that might need to change with regards to the strategic objectives. So this is actually the 4th quarter update, which was supposed to go to council in March. So sort of this repetitive theme about COVID-19. And so this report, we didn't have the meetings. They were canceled because of COVID-19. And so this report didn't go. What we then did is not to miss the 4th quarter. Really, it sort of encompasses the 1st quarter as well. We basically did an update to share with you what we're able to accomplish, what we're working on, and parts of the strategic objectives or your goals where we've either stopped work, we don't have the staff to do work, or because of COVID-19, we're not able to make the progress we had hoped. So really the purpose of this report is to give you a sense on the things that we're working on and trying to accomplish in 2020, and for you to look at those things as we go into the budget workshops next week, so you have a sense of maybe the things that we're not able to accomplish in 2020 that the council might want to consider putting into your 21-22 goals and strategic objectives, or things that maybe now aren't as relevant as they were when the goals and the strategic objectives were first adopted in early 2019. So it's really it's an informational item. It's an opportunity to ask questions. Because of the virtual format, Normally, I have all of the department heads here to be able to respond to questions, but the challenge with the virtual format is if I add 14 people into this meeting, your opportunity to see each other and have a good dialogue is diminished significantly. And so I've asked the department heads not to join us for this discussion. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. If I'm not able to answer any, we'll answer them during your budget workshop. Make sure that we have a follow-up and provide you responses next week. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. And in reviewing these goals, I just want to highlight what I saw when I looked at the training for the police department, the navigator, the clergy and cops interaction. I was very impressed with what kind of attention we paid to our police officers being really responsive to the people of our community, really responsive to the training, and their character is outstanding, and you can see it in this goals report. So I just wanted to comment on that. I thought it was a very important piece of this, and hopefully it'll be a highlight when we go back and revisit the goals. We'll be able to highlight what we really think is important for our police officers and our firefighters.
Councilmember Agnew.
Yeah, thank you for you're appreciated immensely. You know, when I was at the public on, I didn't see any date for our guesstimation on when we're going to start construction on the first. Can you enlighten me a little?
I don't have a construction start date. We can provide that next week.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
I hope this is quick, Jennifer. I'm apologizing now. I just have a few things tabbed here. MFTE, that's something that we're still working on, right? Or is that?
The MFTE, yes, we're still working on it. We have one senior long-range planner. The other, Bruce Blackburn, has been diverted to work specifically on Canyon Park sub-area plan, and so we're having some staffing shortage challenges. Council had authorized the position to be backfilled, and the recruitment was not successful and then put on hold based on COVID-19 and the budget challenges. We'll be coming to you next week to have the discussion about that position in particular.
Okay, but I'm sure by the time 2020 is over with, you're going to feel like a broken record, reminding us of how tight things are. But I just, hope that piece doesn't get buried. For, let's see, AWC, and it was under team building. I noticed that there's Archbright. Maybe you could give us some more information about Archbright next week. Do we pay AWC any extra money for their help? It's under the team building category.
I don't know, but we can let you know next week.
Okay, and then also for Arts Commission, I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm hoping we get some public-private partnerships that can keep the creative side of Bothell going. But then also, and my last comment slash question to maybe just chew on and not get a specific answer about it is, and I'll ask this question next week or at a later date, is our human services grant. Really, really, really important to be reaching out to people who are in need and who are getting lost in just, everybody going about their lives. But I am concerned that we find a way to filter out that, because all our tax dollars are earned by all our Bothell tax dollars come from our Bothell community. So I hope that we could, if we don't have it in place, we can brainstorm a way to filter out that it's Bothell residents that are benefiting from the 46 programs that we focus in on, something like that.
Correct. There's 46 contracts with a variety of agencies to provide services. So that'll be one of the discussions. We all have a lot of choices, hard choices to make. And obviously, we're going to be focusing on discretionary choices. And the human services are $750,000 over the 2-year period. And we'll be seeking council direction on a variety of discretionary spending on what you'd like to see in 2021 and how to close a multi-million-dollar budget gap.
Yeah, I have no idea how you go about monitoring that, and I don't want anyone to spend an inordinate amount of time that they could be using in something else in monitoring that, but it is something that has my interest, and that's my son's comment / questions on this. So thank you for this, and get good sleep between now and next Tuesday. Rest up. Right, thanks.
Our Councilmember McNeil.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments brief. I just wanted to thank the city manager. Ever since we started this process of going through the goal setting, it's been amazing to watch this. Is this posted online for our community to see this and the things that we're working on a regular basis?
It's publicly available through the agenda package, but we haven't made a point of putting it as a separate document that's more easily searchable. But it is a public document and is available, yes.
Fabulous. Thank you again for all the hard work. It's amazing to see the level and in all the different categories that we're working.
All right. Thank you very much for your report, City Manager. On to our next item, AB 20-083, first quarter 2020 financial report and fourth quarter 2019 financial report. Yep. So we will be speaking, or our Finance Director, Chris Bothell, will be presenting on this. Yep, there we go. Director Bothell, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm going to share another PowerPoint. Okay. So I want to start by acknowledging that the first quarter financial results were not significantly impacted by COVID-19 due to the timing of the pandemic. So the second quarter will be a very different story. And I'm going to start with the first quarter report, but I'm going to follow that with a brief discussion of what we're expecting for the second quarter and beyond. And so the expectations for the first quarter of 2020 financial results were a continuation of the status quo. So in a nutshell, we've been experiencing more of the same predictable slow growth that we've been experiencing for the last several quarters. So for Q1, we did not expect revenues or expenditures to be significantly impacted by the pandemic. We did, however, expect sales tax collections to be down slightly due to most retail being closed in late March. So the first quarter results were consistent with expectations and also consistent with the adopted budget, which is with just one exception, that's the sales tax. So sales tax collections were down approximately 11% in March compared to the prior year. Real estate excise tax and utility revenues were strong in the first quarter as well. Capital expenditures were consistent with our plans. And for the last year, I've been presenting a quarterly report saying the financial results were largely unremarkable. And I can say with some confidence that the first quarter 2020 is the last unremarkable quarter that we're going to have for a while. So I want to take the opportunity to share some of our expectations for upcoming periods. So as I mentioned, we're expecting things to change dramatically in the second quarter. We're forecasting a significant decline in sales tax and user fees and charges. But at the same time, we're not expecting expenditures to decline. So the result is that we are forecasting a significant operating deficit in the second quarter. We are also forecasting a decline in real estate excise tax revenues. And we expect the collections of property tax and utility revenues to slow down. So the further we look out into the future, the more uncertain things become. But there's a couple things we do know, so I'm going to share those with you. The financial impacts resulting from furloughs and layoffs will materialize in the third quarter. So we'll have savings on the expenditure side of things. And we know the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates low, which will cause inflation to stay low, which should help to control expenditure growth. Uncertainty, however, is likely to continue in several areas, most notably sales tax revenue, healthcare costs, and property tax and utility collections. Okay, so I want to give you an idea of one thing that we do want to watch, or something that we're watching a little more closely. So the housing market is very important to the city's financial health. The housing market contributes, it's our largest industry for sales tax collection. It also contributes to significant, all of our real estate excise tax comes from real estate transactions. New housing starts are really important to us. We have development fees and charges that we receive from that. And so we're going to be watching really closely the housing market because it's going to profoundly impact our financial condition going forward. So in conclusion, first quarter results were in line with expectations in the adopted budget. Second quarter results are expected to be alarming, hopefully not so much so since we've told you that. And then Q3 and beyond are expected to stabilize and reveal a new normal. That's the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions as always.
All right, thank you for your presentation, Director. Councilmember Thompson.
Hi, Director Bothell. I was wondering, do we have any preliminary indicators of whether or not the forecasted revenue losses that we had are coming to pass or either better or worse?
We don't. Unfortunately, the delays in reporting for sales tax is the biggest one we're watching. It's our largest general fund revenue. And reporting falls so far behind that we really don't have any good data. So the last 2 weeks of March, that's where we see the sales tax decline by 11% compared to the prior period or the prior year. That's not out of line with what we were expecting. The analysis that we did, that the city manager presented several weeks ago now, detailed the forecast in, we did the sales tax forecast by industry. So we expected construction to basically shut down with very few exceptions for 3 months, and the same thing with hospitality and food and beverage. That looks like, and then we there was a slow ramp up that we were expecting. It looks like those things are pretty much in line with what's actually hopefully happening. The one thing we didn't consider was the idea that if we were to kind of shut down again, right, because of a second wave, we did not factor that in. So we're really hoping that doesn't happen. But otherwise, I think we're in a good place with that forecast. And some of the actions that the city manager has taken and that the city council has taken are going to significantly mitigate the deficit that we were looking at when that, I think it was $5.4 million was rolled out to the public and to you all. So we'll definitely keep you aware of any developments. So we'll get sales tax. Unfortunately, sales tax is our biggest one, and it falls so far behind, right? So in a couple of weeks, we'll have April sales tax. and we'll communicate that information out to you and the community as soon as we have that information. I will say, actually, just one other note is that property taxes, both counties extended the deadline through June 1st. Collections were about 5% behind where they historically are at this point, or after that first payment becomes due. But that's primarily a cash flow issue because property tax get lean. The counties are pretty aggressive at collecting those, and they foreclose pretty quickly. And so we'll book a receivable for those anyway. But just in terms of kind of what's going on out there, that would be in line with expectations as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. And I recognize that we're in a very difficult time, as well as everyone else is as well. It's not just Bothell. We started out in a difficult time. Now that's just continuing. But you said $5.4 million deficit, correct? But we've reduced that because of the furloughs and the layoffs. Could you kind of outline that a little bit?
Sure. The initial forecast was for a $5.4 million deficit. The results of the furloughs were over $1 million in savings, I believe. The frozen positions represented another $1 million. And then the layoffs were, I believe, net. So the layoffs, there's some costs associated with that, but we won't see those until later in the year because those are the unemployment claims and some of the things that we'll be paying going forward associated with those. I believe the savings there was about $400,000 in this year, and then larger savings going forward. So I think we're down to like $2.5–3 million deficit. And then there's also been a lot of the spending that would have been planned has also been put on hold. So I'm optimistic that we're going to end the year with maybe a $2 million operating deficit, which is never good news. But it doesn't put us in a terrible financial position. And like you mentioned, Councilmember McAuliffe, that everybody's kind of in this situation, so we're not alone. And everybody's going to be dipping into the reserves. We just have a little thinner reserves than we'd like to going into this thing. But it's not an unusual situation that we find ourselves in. So I think that all these actions that have been taken to help solve this problem have in fact really helped quite a bit. And I think we're headed in a good direction, or as good as could be expected based on the circumstances.
Oh. Councilmember McAuliffe, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I want to thank you because we're getting closer and closer to solving the problem. We still have a long way to go, but because of you and City Council member, City Manager Jennifer Phillips, we're doing better. That's very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our Councilmember McNeil, always right there.
You know how to stick that one in there. So I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work, and the city manager as well. These are extremely tough times for us. When we first heard the deficit of 5.4, to come as far as you have right now is amazing work. As a project manager, it's very difficult to balance budgets. I know firsthand experience, but I want to applaud you for all the hard work and effort that you're doing on behalf of the entire community of Bothell. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation, Director Bothwell. I'd say I look forward to better news, but I'm not going to be that hopeful or optimistic at this point. But I know we're in good hands, and I think we're doing the best that we can right now. So thank you. All right, on to our last item of the evening, council conversations. Deputy Mayor Zorns? No? Well, I just have one topic. I just wanted to.
Around, sorry.
I just have one topic I want to bring up real quick. Just with everyone working remotely and COVID happening, usual event in May, Bike Everywhere, Bike to Work Month, as it used to be called, didn't happen, and it's been shifted to June. And I just want to call attention to June, this Friday, June 19th. Juneteenth is the same day as Bike Everywhere Day, so there's going to be stations set up in strategic locations along the Burke-Gilman Sammamish River Trail. So they're still advocating for the use of bicycles and using them for commuting and just everyday use to replace cars and just to cut back on car use. So it's always good times at those tables, people having fun, especially in these times. It'll be a little piece of normalcy getting out there. So yeah, take a look at the Bike Everywhere page, and looks like the weather will be good for that Friday. So thankful I'll be out there myself. So, Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you, Mayor. I just first want to recognize the work that Aaron Reinhardt has and your staff has done on repairing sidewalks on 88th Avenue Northeast. A lot of people walk on that, and there's been 2 or 3 projects that kind of evens the sidewalk out, and we really very much appreciate that. So, Aaron, I want to say thank you for paying attention to that safety issue with Safety Streets. And also, the business startup kits. I'm sorry, I didn't say, I don't have the right name, but I know what we're talking about. Do we have information on them from our city manager?
We're getting all the supplies in. I think we're looking to bring the volunteers in sometime next week and then have a distribution event either late next week or very early the following week. We're trying to get them out as quickly as possible as we recognize businesses are opening up.
You're back on mute.
I'm sorry. I have 4 volunteers right now, and I can get more if you need them to fill the kits. The businesses will be very appreciative.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you. I wanted to give a big shout out to our Parks Department. Having our North Creek sports fields open and allowing kids to get out and be active has been fun to watch, to say the least, and also watching them do their drills and exercises and things like that, and getting off the computers is a good thing for them. So hats off to the Parks Department for all the work that they're doing there and across all of our parks. Also I'm going to be reaching out to a couple of businesses on Main Street. I know we've got an email came through today about, opening up more opportunities for our businesses on Main Street. I look forward to hearing from businesses across our community, but I wanted to stay engaged with the businesses on Main Street and see how that pilot program is working and see how we can help other businesses around our community as well. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to our entire community. Over the past couple weeks, our downtown has been filled with protesters, and the protests that we see in the community of Bothell have been very peaceful, the runs, the walks. And it's a testament to who we are and that word sense of community. And so let's continue to have the conversations and the things that we're doing, the positive things that we're doing. We have a budget deficit that we need to overcome with the leadership of our city manager and the staff. I think we'll get there. We have some tough, hard decisions to make. But we can do it when we stand together and work together. So I feel with all the issues that are going on in this country, I feel blessed to live in the city of Bothell. So thank you.
Councilmember Agnew.
You know, I hate following James. He's so eloquent. But Mason, I just wanted to tell you, I think tomorrow is the day the bridge is going up, if I'm not mistaken, in Bothell Landing. I think that's going to be an exciting time for us. It's taken us a few years to get to that point. And I agree with James. The Hop and Hound, they had some interesting comments that we should probably take a look at. I hope everybody has a great week.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
You too, Councilmember Agnew. We're almost at the longest day of the year, and then I'm going to start grieving that the days are getting shorter. Is that on June 19th, Juneteenth or June 20th? I don't know, but there needs to be a party. I'm glad, Councilmember McNeil, that you brought up going to downtown and having a conversation with a couple of those Hop and Hound and the tea place. I walked down there today and I was just, assessing what it would be asking of our city staff to make accommodations and what can we do to help them. So you'll report back to us, won't you, on, ideas that you chew around?
Happy to, yeah. I think it's important.
Okay, thank you. Because, we need to find ways to encourage each other without overburdening any particular person. So, yeah, I'll look forward to hearing back.
All right. I'm not seeing any more cards. I just need to see one more card. All right,
I'm joking, man. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Well, if someone like a motion to adjourn, then there we go. That's what I was looking for. Councilmember McNeil.
I would.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. Everyone's in agreement. Not even gonna. There we go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.